Welcome back everyone to a little video from Twisted Dice. I'm Darren and today we're going to be joined by Ace. Now,
Hello.
apologies we don't get to see his glorious face on camera, but he's been better known to have a face for the radio anyway, so this is probably the best way.
It's still in the morning, mate. I mean, yeah, I'm just waking up, so yeah, that's what it is.
So today we're going to talk everything Ninth and all the cool features that's going to be coming out with Ninth as well. So there's been a Q&A that was talked about yesterday over on the Warhammer community website. No, it wasn't. It was on Twitch. Do apologise. And they talked about a lot of questions were asked about the new edition that's going to be coming out very, very soon. And wow, there's been some really, really interesting things that's going to be coming out with Ninth as well, which is getting me really, really excited. Now, John, what is your thoughts on Ninth so far? Are you still excited or are you not excited?
Absolutely buzzing. Always loved 8th edition pretty much since more or less the start of when it came out, and this very much looks like it's touched on a few of the fundamental issues that we've had throughout the edition, and just made it a little bit better. So, you know, yeah, there's some things that I'm potentially concerned about, but on the whole, I'm really, really excited. It looks amazing.
It does look amazing. It does look amazing. So some of the things they were talking about yesterday, or the first lot of questions they talked about was terrain and how terrain is going to play a big part again in 40k. And that's interesting because for ourselves, we run a lot of tournaments, and some of the things they talked about is how different terrain is going to play a different effect on the tabletop. But let's talk about something first of all where they talked about line of sight blocking as well, because this is really, I think this has probably been one of the biggest things that has been one of the problems in 40k in 8th. Don't get me wrong, terrain has not been a major thing in 40k, but one of the biggest things that I remember like really early on in 40k in the 8th edition is going to Gibraltar with my Arrowman and just having a little bit of the cape sticking out, and then managed to get absolutely shot off the board because that one little bit of the cape being seen. And this is something we was talking about earlier on about, that's one thing they've kind of addressed as well, or it sounds like they've addressed.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was one of the biggest criticisms around that interaction of line sight blocking, and it's a huge problem in tournament play and just generally in casual play as well, because a lot of people want to play with, you know, fun terrain and what have you, and if it hasn't got like huge line of sight blocking pieces on there, then sometimes it just can be a non-event to start off with, and that's always a real shame. So to bring something in that is going to make it much harder for armies just to shoot you off the board if you don't have your models completely covered, I think sounds a really positive factor. So yeah, I definitely think that sounds like a huge positive. So we'll see.
It's good. That's interesting.
Hmm.
So really, you know, there's some really interesting things that's definitely going to be coming off the back of it. So one of the things they were talking about with terrain was they talked about like you could be able to get the gene stealers to be able to hide around this, you know, cling to the base of terrain more to get that line of sight blocking, which I thought was really interesting. So I think that's definitely something to look into once that, you know, once the book drops or the rules drop, and we can actually see more into that, because that would be really crucial. And so one of the biggest things they've addressed is the fact that monsters interacting with scenery now. So like if you've got a monstrous creature or a flying hive tyrant, not being able to, in 8th at the moment, be able to interact with anyone that's gone up a couple of steps on a piece of terrain. That's been a real big sticking point for a lot of us in the tournament scene. This has kind of allowed us now to, or by the sounds of it, interact with those type of things. So I'm guessing, you know, Chaos Knights or Knights in general is probably a good example where if models have got into a piece of terrain, the Knights, if it's a close combat Knight, can't do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's a feel bad factor in the game currently, the interaction between some units and terrain. So, you know, if they've sorted that out, then I think that's a really good thing. You know, yes, it will make certain units stronger, but every rule that that they make will change the meta to a degree, because it will change the power factor of certain units. But I think, interaction is probably the most important thing in the game. So the more that they work on that, the better, really. So it's good. I'm pleased.
Yeah, very, very pleased on that. It does sound very, very interesting. So, and that's really, really cool. Now, I suppose the other thing they were talking about, like different terrain will have different feels. I can't remember if we've talked about this, but the whole thing about the terrain having a different feel on different things. So like they were talking about if you were fighting on an ice world or a forest world, they're going to feel different. So you're going to have different things on that, which sounds really, really cool. And I'm guessing as well, because one of the things I was saying about before was like the now this is going to skip it a little bit, but I want to go back to this point in a second. But the minuses, like the best you can get is a -1 on hitting. So I'm wondering whether or not scenery is going to play that same type of role as well. Whether or not, if you're in terrain, at the moment you get the +1 save, but whether that will change on the saving throw.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it doesn't. It can be +1s. It doesn't talk about. It only talks about negative minus modifiers, from what I can see, rather than positive. So, if your positive modifier is high, then obviously that's going to help, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's hard to see exactly how that's going to work out, because I haven't made that particularly clear. What I would say with the different types of terrain, that it doesn't worry me, but there's definitely it sounds similar to the realms in Age of Sigmar, and I mean, I'm not 100% up to speed with my Age of Sigmar anymore. I've lost a little bit of way with that, but when their second edition came out, they had, you would almost like roll to see what realm you played in. And that definitely caused for some imbalance in tournament play, to the extent that I think quite a lot of the time the TOs took those rules out of their tournament packs, because they became a little bit unbalanced. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be to those extent, but I think anything that changes the dynamic dramatically, depending on what board you're playing on, can again potentially make for some pretty bad unbalance. So we'll have to wait and see how that factors out in 9th edition. So, but yeah, definitely, I suppose a warning bell a little bit there, but we'll see.
Definitely interesting, because obviously as a tournament player, as the tournament organisers ourselves, that's something that we definitely have to look upon, because one of the other things they were talking about was how much terrain is used on specific amount of points. So I think that's really interesting on its own as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. The more clarity, the better.
Yeah, and that's cool. It definitely sounds like they're addressing that balance of close combat versus a gun line. So that's really, really cool. It'd be interesting to see whether or not how we run our tournaments at the moment, John, whether how far off the mark we are to coming into line with the new GW rules. I think we're pretty spot on that already, but whether or not how far off, how close we are to it.
I know. I mean, I think with the addition of a sort of a worldwide tournament organizer in Mike Brent, who's going to try and unify as much as possible the kind of tournament scene, or the tournament packs, if you like. It would be really, really good if we were in a place where we were very close to playing the GW missions. Again, sort of using Age of Sigmar as an example, those guys, they pretty much play straight out of the book wherever you play. Which, is great, because it just means that everybody's playing the same thing, and you don't get into this place where, I'm really good, but actually I'm only really good in ITC or whatever it might be. It's quite good it's good to know that everybody's playing a pretty similar thing, where at the moment in 40k people are playing very, very different games. So we'll see. That will depend on how the mission, and they did comment around that there's been more work put into the mission structures. So that's got to be good again.
That's got to be good, and that's interesting. They mentioned that So really looking forward to seeing what they come up with that as well, and that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely brilliant.
That's,
Really, really exciting.
yeah, so good times coming on the back of that. Now, what was the next thing on the thing? So let me get my notes out because there's so many things that are talked about. What would you like to talk about next, John?
So let's talk a little bit about the change to the way that CP is worked. So they talked about how it was how it's distributed. So what it's going to be now is it's going to be a case of every army will be given a certain amount of CP,
Yeah.
and then what happens with that CP is you will then spend that CP on your different resources for the game, which means that they spoke about it in the initial thing around sort of soup. So if you really feel strongly that you want to add additional elements to your army, then you're going to have to pay your resource points for it. So you're going to have to pay your CP for it. So it's going to change the way that armies are built. And there's more stuff on army build as well, but I thought that was really, really interesting. So it rather than potentially you bringing soup in and that being a way of you getting more CPs, it's now going to be a way that you lose CPs, which is very, very different, right?
Yes, and that was quite interesting on that. Like one of the biggest bugbears in 8th is or not. I suppose towards the later part of it, it's not been so bad. But it's been that whole thing where the soup has been strong, where you will see like people will take the best of, cherry pick the best bits or the strong, powerful bits of various different armies to make that ultimate one strong bit. So if this can kind of combat that a little bit, I think that would be really awesome. I think there's nothing more frustrating when you go to a tournament than you do come up against someone that's got, let's say, Imperial Guard, the Loyal 32 with Custodes. Well, maybe Custodes is probably not the right one to use, but well, I suppose no. Actually, you know what? Custodes are not great for CP anyway, so you would have to bring another element in to to stack their CP up. Admech, anything that's CP hungry, you use the guard just for that cheap command points. So to address that is freaking awesome. Like, I think that's really cool. So then that means that people don't have to go down the route of picking out the chaff just to to build their CP up, so they can stick to a true fraction. So if you are a pure Chaos Space Marine player, you don't then have to go into the into the Demon Codex and then buy loads of Brimstone Horrors just to bulk out your troop choice. So we get to start seeing some cool things on the tabletop again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's got to be positive. So yeah, I really, really like that. I like that factor. Yeah, no, really, really, really good. What they also spoke about was how the force organization will change.
Yes.
So it says one of the questions was, will players need to include troops? And the answers were, you will need to in the same way you do now, just more flexibility. So it sounds like there's going to be more options to build, to make, like, if you stick to a kind of a kind of fluffy mono build, it sounds like there's going to be more ways to to be flexible with your army build, which again I think is exciting.
The only thing I don't want to see though is, I know they said like about the troops, but I don't want it to be a case of where you don't have to bring troops. I think troops still have to be a compulsory part of the game. Otherwise, if you take that element away, then all of a sudden, what stops people from then stacking out their army just full of elites?
Yeah. There's got to be a level of balance there, right?
Yeah, there's definitely got to be a level of balance there, because I think that will ruin the game on its own. Because there's so many armies out there that have so many cool, powerful elite choices, heavy options, and if all of a sudden they don't have to waste points on troops, you wouldn't have to worry about it. You'd just go stack it out with all out elite. So hopefully that part will be addressed, and that's something to really look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so what else do we want to talk about? So, they,
So
I'll cover it. Go on, you carry
So
on.
before we go any further, if you like the content that we're pushing out of Twisted Dice, please don't forget to hit the sub on the channel. You won't believe how much that actually helps us out. And if you could be awesome enough just to take that second, just to go somewhere down there and smash that subscribe button, we'd really appreciate it. And plus that helps us get to that magical number of 10,000 subs. So if you can help us on our way, we would really, really appreciate it. Now, of course, don't forget to like the video and share with your mum and your auntie and uncle down the road. Everyone that's interested in ninth.
Uh, yeah, definitely. Please do let us know. Let us know what you think as well. Really excited to hear your thoughts.
That awkward silence from John there was like, oh, okay.
We've gone down a rabbit hole. Yeah,
that's it.
So I'm just reading through my notes, to be honest. So what they said is, they spoke a bit about the morale phase. So I thought that was quite good that they've tried to improve that. Again, there's not a huge amount of clarity around how they've done it, but they have said that a few of the units that currently maybe aren't that scary will become a little bit more frightening. So things like Night Lords and Reavers. So I thought that was good, because at the moment morale really isn't a feature of the game particularly.
No, it's not. It really is not, because like if you got Marines, Space Marines, most of the time they pass anyway.
Yeah, they're rolling twice. They're small squads, so they're not really affected by it.
No.
Orcs are taking the morale of a unit that's close by, or they've got mob rule, and Tyranids are in Synapse, and there's so many units that are either fearless or really aren't affected by it. It becomes a bit of a non-event. So we'll see whether that features. It's not for a while, so we'll see how it features.
Yeah, they talked about that, but they also talked about leaving combat as well.
Yes.
So that'd be interesting. But more importantly, going into combat, John, they touched upon Overwatch. Now this was interesting because a lot of my armies are close combat armies. I don't hold a lot of shooting armies, so for me to have like 20 odd, back at the beginning of 8th, John, what was I playing? A lot of Chaos Space Marines, and one of the biggest things that hurt me was trying to get my Khorne Berserkers across the board and getting absolutely annihilated or having virtually nothing left to deal with anything. Gene Stealer Cult going up against Tau, once you get up into combat, if you're not absolutely obliterated off the table by Overwatch, you don't tend to have a lot to go back into the next thing. And that was kind of one of the things they mentioned about it, and I thought this was really cool. You did touch upon the fact that you've struggled to get all the way across the tabletop, and then when you get to the other side, just be absolutely moralised that you've got hardly anything left there, to carry on in combat.
Sounds like it'd be a stratagem for all melee units, more or less, by the looks of things. So it's probably going to be a stratagem that turns off Overwatch, maybe.
Yeah, or how about another way? You have to spend a stratagem to do Overwatch.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be more effective, right?
It would, but I feel for my Tau if that's the case, because they don't have combat. No, don't sod my Tau.
Your Tau could have combat if you choose to have them in combat.
No, they can't.
I didn't say they were good in combat. I just said you have a choice to put them in combat if you choose to.
They don't know what combat is, Darren. So that means my poor fish, my poor fishmen. They don't want to fight in combat. They want to shoot you off the board, right? Okay. And if they have to pay CPs to shoot you off the board, that's quite tough. So we'll have to wait and see, because I think, I want combat just as much as the next person, but I don't want to totally invalidate armies that don't have combat. So there's a balance to play, I think.
Welcome back to 5th.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's
not cool.
No,
we'll see.
It'd be interesting to see what they come up with that, and whether or not you have to spend CP to stop the Overwatch, or whether it be CP to to Overwatch. It'd be interesting to see how they address it, because it's been an interesting thing for, was it sixth edition, wasn't it? They started bringing Overwatch into it, so it'd be interesting to see what they come up with that, and see whether they can sort that out.
I can see that I reckon that there'll be pretty substantial FAQs for each of the factions when the new edition comes out. So, because with the rules being rewritten in quite a lot of ways, even though the codexes are still going to feature and still going to function, I think there'll be certain things that don't necessarily work straight as they are. So I expect them to be some FAQs to reword certain things to change the way that they interact with the new rules.
Yes.
And you could see something like, for instance, I'm not saying that this is the way, but the rule for the greater good not only does what it does, but it also means that you can Overwatch for free or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I know that's probably an extreme example, but whatever it is, I think there'll be certain rules that are rewritten through FAQs so they interact more with the new rule set, because there'll be certain things that don't work. So we'll see.
Yeah, but and then going back with the rule book, they did talk about it's no longer just going to be the 8 pages that it currently is now. It's going to be a lot more pages to the actual rule book as well. And they also talked about at the back of the rule book, you can have an index part in there where they're talking about scenarios where things could happen, like things that might not always happen, but just that odd occasion where something might pop up, and they talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of got me thinking, like, how would you work that out if ninth has not already dropped?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. Time will tell, I suppose. You just got to give it some thought, really.
Yeah, it's definitely something. It's definitely something you have to give thought to. Now, yeah, it's definitely something we have to give thought about. Unless they've taken examples that we've seen already in 8th, and they're going to take from those examples and go away from there. But the main thing with 9th is the core mechanics is still going to stay the same, and that's massive, because like 8th is probably been one of their easiest and probably best additions they've done so far, in the fact that it's really, really easy to use, really easy to play. If you're new into the hobby, it's not so daunting. Like, all the rules are there, and it's easy to get straight on board. And that's been one of the cool features of 8th, I suppose. And I suppose to lose all the coolness they've got in 8th now, and then to change it in 9th would be absolutely bonkers. And thankfully they haven't done that. They've stuck to the core rules in 8th, and that's good. That's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from your point of view, Darren, because it doesn't necessarily float my boat as much, we're excited about all the information in regards to the Crusade part of the book, because I'm thinking your kind of narrative stuff and the campaigns that you want to do. So surely this must be floating your boat quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I got really excited for that in 2 ways. One, for the channel. I think for the narrative side for the channel, it's going to be absolutely freaking awesome. I know like Dan, I know Grant, I know especially Tom, and all those boys are going to be really, really excited to get involved on that side, and I think that's going to be massive for the channel. But more importantly, for the local club, that the Leighton Buzzard Gaming Club, that is going to be huge as well for that. So on a Monday night when we're playing, it means that we can have an awesome campaign that's already set in a way.
All built in.
Yeah,
all built in.
And that sounds really exciting. And I know those boys are just going to be, boys and girls are going to be really excited over that. That was kind of a bit sexist there, wasn't it? Yeah, all those boys, just those boys. But it's not. We have girls there as well, believe it or not. So we don't want to discriminate there. But no, it's going to be.
Yeah, so it's good.
It's going to be really, really good. That's going to be, I think it's going to be really awesome. I like the fact that they talked about you start off with a patrol and then you start working up, and it sounds like when you score points in the patrol, you can then spend those points to add new units to your army, or even bring back the dead ones. So it sounds like if you lose units in the campaign, they're gone, unless you spend points to revive them again. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And the other thing they talked about was like, depending on how many points you play, it's going to determine the map size and other various different things, like mission wise, that you can do on certain points and certain mission types, on different types of board types as well. So that's really cool. So they've definitely got away and thought about this, and they've looked upon it from all angles, from the competitive side and also from the narrative side as well. So yeah, that's going to be absolutely freaking awesome. Like very excited over that.
Absolutely, and I think one of the kind of the final points, I think we're running out of information, because it wasn't, they talked about quite a lot in some detail, but they didn't go into loads, which is cool, because this is quite early days, and I think there's going to be loads more information to follow, so loads of exciting stuff down the road. But they speak about, and I'll speak about it in more detail in a separate video, I think, but they spoke about how not only, because they talked about in the preview how tanks won't be able to be locked in combat, and they'll be able to shoot out of combat. Well, they said that, because someone questioned about Tyranids, and they said, well, anything that tanks can do, monstrous creatures can do, and potentially better.
It's kind of like, and that's anything you can do, excited. I can do better.
Yeah, no one needs to hear that, Darren. No one needs to hear that. But I thought that was, I mean, I suppose straight away my mind goes to my favourite list, which is my Carnifex list.
God, that is going to be broken.com.
Yeah, I mean, one of their only weaknesses that you can kind of tag him in combat and stop him from shooting. If I can then carry on shooting with them, then that makes them really, really good. And the same with any of the big Tyranid monsters, things like X-Crimes that are now super scary. The fact that now you can't lock them up, and they're pretty tough anyway. They're not easy to kill in one round of combat.
No, and that's massive.
So I thought that was really encouraging. I hope that there's more along the line that makes the purely combat big monsters better, but maybe I always want more. But I still think that's a huge bonus that those shooting monsters are going to be able to shoot.
As soon as you said that, I completely forgot one cool thing as well. The fact that, well, I don't know if it's cool, but they're now, Games Workshop themselves are going to be doing all the cool rules for the Forge World units. Someone mentioned about their guard army.
Death Corps Creed,
that's it. And I thought that was really cool. I think that's going to be massive. So I think if they do that, and they then start incorporating the Forge World models into the main rule books, wow. I think that's...
I mean, absolutely. Well, they've rumoured for a long time that the two rules teams now are incorporated, and there's one rules team that's now just doing the kind of all of the rules for Forge World and for Games Workshop. So this sounds like it's something that's been on the cards for a while, and there are talks that we're going to see those, even as soon as the next couple of supplements, that we're going to see Forge World rules within the new Vigilus rulebook. So
Vigilus.
Psychic Awakening.
This is the thing, because now...
Yeah, but that reminded me. That's why, I mean, I think I've said Vigilus because I was also looking through my notes, and just a brief one that they did say that, that as far back as Vigilus rules will still be still be usable within 9th edition, which,
Super Gun still alive, mofo.
Yeah. Everyone's size.
So we've got some cool. So it's interesting that those books are still going to play a massive great part in it, which is going to be cool, because there are some cool formations, or not formations, but key strategies that you could use out of Vigilus. So if they can still incorporate over it, how they will play in the new 9th would be interesting, because it might be a case of, yes, you can still use them, but they might actually be pony into the new rules.
We'll see, won't we? We'll see.
You might never know. You might have to spend extra CP to use them.
Who knows?
it'd be interesting. It'd be very, very interesting. But they talked about Death Watch is going to get re-looked upon. They talked about that all the Marines...
they listen to our moans. They listened to mine and Simon's moans. That's what it was. That's all they did. They didn't listen to anything else.
No, they just listened to Salty
Tip of the
Simon.
Spearhead, and they were like, actually, to be fair, we did forget about them. We'll do something with them.
Well, maybe that's why they did copy and paste them. They just thought, well, what's the point? If we've got if we're going to drop 9th, what's the point in actually doing any love for them? We might as well just wait for 9th to come around, and we'll just rewrite the rule book then, and then we'll give them all the cool stuff then, right?
Maybe.
Well, look, they talked about all the fractions are going to get. Oh, sorry, all the Space Marines are going to be getting all the cool bikes. I'm not talking about Grey Knights. They didn't mention the Grey Knights, but they did talk about like Blood Angels, Space Wolves, being able to get all the new cool toys. Chainswords are going to get better, depending on who's wielding the actual chainsaw itself. So that's going to be exciting to see, you know, the most iconic weapon, or one of the most iconic weapons in 40k, to get the love that it well deserves. Like, nothing's more scary than a Space Marine with a Masquerade friggin' bolter and a chainsword, you know, hurling towards you. At the moment, it does nothing. It's not really scary at all. But now,
well, I think it's only going to be when the big guys are holding them. I think that when they're talking about it, they're talking about the new Assault Marines chainswords.
Yeah, they're talking about. I get that. So that's what he said about depending on who's wielding them. So like, if a normal Space Marine's going to wield them, it's not going to be as effective. Yeah. But if you've got like a
so don't
Primaris
expect
Marine,
any love for your berserkers, mate. That's what I'm saying. Don't get excited, all right?
Well, how do you know we haven't got a new rule book coming out from? How do you know we've got a new? Well, you never know. I heard Fabius is, you know, working on something in the background, or maybe some demonic...
You're only going to disappoint yourself, mate.
Listen, there's nothing stopping me from making a Space Marine faction and then painting them corn berserkers, right?
It's true. Work for Simon, right?
Well, yeah, damn right it worked for Simon. So if it works for Simon, it can work for me. Anyway, listen, we'll be interested to see everyone else's thoughts and reactions on the back of this. You know, have you had a chance to listen to it? You know, what's your thoughts on 9th so far? Is there anything you've seen that you think, actually, do you know what, that doesn't sound good, or does sound good, or if there's something that we've missed, please drop some comments down below, because, you know, we really, really appreciate any type of comments on there. And plus, it's good to get some feedback, right, John?
Absolutely. We absolutely love to hear your comments, you know, whether you disagree, whether you agree. We just please, if you listen this far as well, just let us know that you've listened this far, that you've enjoyed it, right? It just helps us out absolutely tons. So please, and we read every single comment, and we try to get back to as many of them as we possibly can. I would say 90%.
Even the ones that call me a moron.
Of the comments. Those ones especially, I get back to those ones and I thank them, you know, and say, you know, yes, you're spot on. But we try to. I think 90% of the comments we respond to. So look, please do comment and let us know what you think. And again, as Darren said, all joking apart, please do share this video and spread the love around. You know, we're really pushing towards the 10,000 subscriber mark. And we would love to get there, guys, and celebrate with you lot. So please spread the word and let people know about us. But I think that's us done for today, Darren. But fear not, we have got so many videos ready and waiting that we can't wait to share with you guys. So, and there'll be so much more on 9th. So this is the place to come for all your information for 9th edition. Do not go anywhere else. And I think until the next video, we'll see you really soon.
Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next battle report, fluff report, or even just doing some painting. Catch you all soon.
Bye for now.